And welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Phil Cobble, Fine Homes and Land. When you're in the market for a new home or you're ready to put your current home on the market, trust the leader in East Tennessee residential realty. A-plus marketing prowess with everything from TV ads on this show to drone photography of your home to show that thing off. And look at the sales total right there since 1980. You can't beat that number. Phil Cobble, Fine Homes and Land. PhilCobbleHomes.com to learn more. All right, we are down to the top 3 of our countdown. We're doing our Vols roster 2016 preview. We've counted from 10 to 7, and there's number 3, Alvin Kamara, running back, junior, who could leave early, could have left early last year as a redshirt sophomore, could leave early this year. Thoughts on Mr. Kamara, and I'm going to go to Jimmy with that one.
I love his versatility. In fact, I remember I was talking to a coach a couple of years ago that told me that Kamara was better than Jalen Hurd, and you can certainly argue that. But Kamara's versatility, I think he averaged about 6.5 yards rushing. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He is a very good punt returner. He had a touchdown run back last year. He had a 70-yarder that was called back. He averaged about 12.5 on punt returns. I just think he's a terrific athlete, very versatile. I'll be interested to see what DeBoer does in using him. And he's another guy. You got to get the football more in his hands, right? Along with everybody else on offense. But I just think he brings an explosiveness to us. He's better, in my opinion, in the open field than Hurd. Hurd will run over you. Kamara will juke you and run around you. And he's a little bit, well, he's quicker than Hurd too. Mm-hmm. But I like him a lot as a football player. I think he's going to be very valuable.
Pretty good return guy too.
Yeah.
Throw it into the mix. So number 2 on our list, we move up. Cam Sutton. Now people can figure out who number 1 is. But Cam Sutton is number 2 on the list, another of the guys to come back this year. Bob, you had him high on your list. I think you had him number 3. You're finding another guy who's also a good punt returner as well, a good kick returner. Your thoughts on
and his returning played a little bit of a role into it too. But I remember last year, it kind of, you're sitting there when you're watching games, then you listen to what people say after. He gave up a couple of passes in a couple of games. And people were mad. People were mad that he gave up those. Okay, let's go back and look at all the passes he didn't give up. I think, if I read the statistic correctly, he gave up like 6% of the completions that were against Tennessee last year. I mean, this is a cornerback. I mean, this is somebody who's got probably their best receiver in front of him. It's a very, very, very low number. I'm not exactly sure if it's correct, but it's really low. But it sounds great.
But it was low.
Matter of fact, let's make it 5% to go from there.
But the thing is, I mean, it also shows there were a lot of times when people didn't throw at him. Mm-hmm. You know, it was clear that they were looking to the other side of the field instead of just to Sutton's side, which also speaks to his talent and his ability. And that leaves us with number 1 on our list, the top player on this year's roster for Tennessee, Mr. Jalen Hurd. Russell, you had him number 1 on your list. Tell me why.
Yeah, because Jalen Hurd is a beast. I mean, he's probably Tennessee's best running back since Arian Foster, and I think he's already been a better college running back than Foster was. He's got the speed. He can run over you. He gets better as the game goes along. And I think that he sets things up for everybody else in the offense to be effective because defenses have to account for him first and foremost. That opens things up for Dobbs in the run game and hopefully is going to, for Tennessee, allow more one-on-one opportunities on the outside in the passing game as well.
The comparison to Foster is an interesting one because it's one thing I don't think Hurd gets a lot of credit for. Is he's pretty good in terms of taking care of the football, which Foster was not. Hurd's not a guy that you have to worry about putting on the ground all the time.
Here's another thing, too. You talk about him being a beast. How about pass protection? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That guy levels some blocks in pass protection now. He puts some of the big – he looks sometimes better than some of the offensive linemen, the blows that he delivers.
And he's done it behind not the best of offensive lines either.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's done is accomplished against fairly mediocre offensive lines. I think they're getting better. But to this point, mediocre.
And without always a very explosive pass game down the field. So it's probably been against some loaded boxes as well. Now, granted, he has some other running threats to help him out in Kamara and Dobbs, but the teams have loaded up the box on him, and if this team could throw the ball with explosiveness down the field, it could open things up for him even more.
And to Vince's point, a lot of times when Tennessee would have a lead, they'd go conservative, right? Yes. And you knew it was going up the middle with Hurd. I think that impacted his yards per carry. It would have been better had Tennessee not gone into that mode.
Hurd number 1, Sutton number 2, Kamara number 3, Dobbs number 4. The one that surprises me is Dobbs out of that mix. But the number 1s, You and I both put Josh Dobbs number 1 for various reasons. Everybody ranked these guys a little differently, which makes it interesting. Vince, you had Derek Burnett number 1. Russell, you had Jalen Hurd number 1. You had Jalen Reeves-Maybin number 1, Bob. So I think it's interesting that on this list, it's something we talked about. You have 16 different guys that made this list. You're not talking about a ton of seniors on here. It's a pretty talented team, and it's the first time you could say, and there's a reason they're predicted to win the SEC East, and that some people have gone insane and picked them into the top 10. But you haven't seen this kind of talent where you could debate this. We say this is the 2016 roster preview show. We haven't done a roster preview show previously for a reason. So we couldn't have this kind of debate. When we come back, I'm going to get my computer off screensaver. Also, we're going to show you some incredible numbers. Will Tennessee put more than 3 players, put 3 or more, on the All-SEC first team? Okay? It's been a while since that happened. Come on back.